Well, guys, it's been a while since we've had Patrick Riley on. It's been like it's like a year, I think, man. Or I don't know. It's been at least that, right? It's been a while. You've been very busy doing other stuff, and life gets in the way. We all get that. But before we get started, folks, Reaper.financial. That's where you find them. Reaper.financial. The guy's brilliant. But we do have to pay the bills around here, so don't forget to shop with the good guys. We got new garb coming. I can't wait to introduce it at QFS1776.com/shop. QFS1776.com/shop. We got new t-shirts. I can't wait to introduce them to you. As soon as Amber gets done with her job, I'll be able to dangle them and show them all to you. Amazing, amazing designs. I know some of you guys are going to try to copy them out there. You know, the XRP Army 1.0, 1.50. But anyway, I won't mention any names, but that's happened. But carminesgold.com, if you need gold or silver, I could get you gold or silver. All right. This is the number you contact me for both gold, silver, and XRP. XRP has to be nothing less than $10,000. Nothing less. Maximum, there is no maximum. You could say, I got $1 million, I got 10 million. Yes, 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 100 million. We could do as much as you want. And you better get it while it's cheap because I don't know how much longer these prices are going to last. So that number is 786-704-8817. 786-704-8817. We got brokers, international brokers all over the world, and they'll pick up the phone and call you. You'll get that personal touch that you don't get with Coinbase and all the other exchanges. Send me a text message first. Say my name is, first name, last name. I'm interested in buying 10,000. I'm interested in buying $100,000 worth of XRP. 786-704-8817. And also, if you happen to be in the area in Cape Canaveral, which is where they're going to be building the Golden Dome now, okay? You heard about that project Donald Trump is looking to launch with some missile defense systems. Well, that's happening right in our backyard in Cape Canaveral. Staying, ING, alive, with two E's at the end, okay? And come check out our healing center. Come in and charge the body. The body's like a Tesla battery. It wants to be charged every now and then. Brother, it's been a long time. Let's talk about the government shutdown. What's your take on this? And does this shutdown have anything to do with XRP?
Yes, and but I'll get to that last. So my first take on it is that this is something that both sides of the aisle are behind. They want this shutdown. Now I see there's the political mudslinging, and I saw a note this morning, bannered across the Snap website for welfare recipients about how this is the
Mm.
Democrats voting for the 12th time not to turn on the benefits because of illegal immigrants, healthcare, and that kind of thing. I don't think it's actually about that at all. I think that this is something that has been planned for a while because we aren't really seeing the fallout from this government shutdown that we would see if this was unplanned. Things like the military still getting paid. Trump found $130 million for troops somewhere, right? And we've got a ballroom for $300 million being built off the East Wing. And Ripple and Coinbase and Gemini are all donors for that, coincidentally. And really, with this shutdown, I've been seeing a lot of interesting traffic, and I can't say that I know anything is afoot or going on for sure, but there's been a lot of talk about integration of crypto assets behind the scenes during this shutdown, and I have to really wonder. So I did pull up one by the Federal Reserve Governor Christopher Waller here, and I want to share that real quick. It's about a minute long. Um, and I think there's some very significant things he's saying here.
This is an acknowledgement that distributed ledgers and crypto assets are no longer on the fringes, but are increasingly woven into the fabric of the payment and financial system. Now,
So woven into the fabric. So now let's just be real here for any Bitcoin maxis out there, ETH maxis out there. Good for you. There's nothing wrong with it. You're more than welcome to enjoy whatever coin you enjoy, but Bitcoin is not woven into the fabric. Ethereum is not woven into the fabric. XRP, with its former Federal Reserve chair and former Treasury board members, and it's former White House employees, and it's former JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs employees and NSA employees. XRP is woven into the fabric. So when I hear this from Christopher Waller, the current Federal Reserve governor, that to me says he is saying that right now XRP is about ready to go. The RTPs, the FedNow system is all ready for the switch to flip. And I feel like this shutdown, we've been hearing a lot of very confident talk from government officials about cryptocurrency just over the last month.
Before we hear from these innovators, I would like to touch on roles that the Federal Reserve plays to support the private sector. These include serving as a convener to solve coordination problems and operating core payment and settlement infrastructure. We are also looking ahead, conducting hands-on research on tokenization, using smart contracts, and the intersection of AI and payments for use in our own payment systems. We do this.
So when he says payments, again, Bitcoin, 6 transactions per second, and you cannot send payments on Bitcoin or the Lightning Network to such a scale that you would be able to service the Federal Reserve. And
23 transactions per minute instead of 6 transactions per second. I'm not trying to correct you here.
No, there's varying claimed results, but at the end of the day, Bitcoin is just too slow. You have, if everyone tried to dump and get out of Bitcoin right now, it would take 2 years for some of those transactions to actually go through. And if that math doesn't startle you and you just love Bitcoin, like I said, great, good for you. But there's reason me and Mel are in XRP.
Absolutely.
So when he says payments, obviously he is talking about XRP here because that is the only one that does 3 to 5 seconds for less than a penny. Ethereum, proof of stake, you still have gas fees and it's still untenable as far as a payment system. And yes, there are other cryptocurrencies out there that can sort of compete with XRP on the grounds of transactions per second and speed and things of that nature. But those other cryptocurrencies do not have Ripple and Ripple's board members and all the other government officials intertwined and, as he said, built into the system. So I think this was probably one of the biggest green flags I've ever seen as far as XRP, and knowing that those who have had faith in XRP for this long are on the right path and that we're not crazy. We're thinking exactly what we should be thinking about where XRP is going. And when the Federal Reserve governor is saying it without saying it, but there are no other options. He's only could be talking about XRP here.
To understand the innovation happening within the payment system, as well as to evaluate whether these technologies could provide opportunities to upgrade our own payment infrastructures and to enable us to have deeper conversations with the industry on these new technologies. This is an acknowledgement that
Yeah. So to me, extremely significant. I'm sure that went over every Bitcoin maxi's head and every ETH maxi's head, and most of the market didn't even know it happened. When I saw that, I was like, wow, he's confirming everything.
Yeah, you almost have to be dumb, deaf, and blind and stupid. Okay, I'll throw stupid in there on top of it, There's only one way you could fix stupid, and that's with duct tape. Did you know that?
Well, I think I understand it, and it's cognitive dissonance, and I get it. There's people out there that are emotionally invested in other coins and tokens, or they just want something else like Bitcoin to go to 1 million, and maybe it will, and that's fine. But it is not the future of payment systems. It's not the future global reserve currency. It's not the future World Bank. Ripple, XRP, what we're seeing here, yes, that is what is coming. And until someone shows me something that competes with it or can compete with it, this is what's happening.
Listen, if you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig.
Yep.
Right? And the bottom line, let's war game this just for shits and giggles. We know we're going to a DOGE, I call it Department of Gesara, They call it Department of Government Efficiency. It's the same fucking thing. Doesn't matter how you look at it. You look at the way the one is behaving, and you look at the lingo of Nasara Jasara. They're identical. So, having said that, the bottom line is this: the government has a lot of experience in Ponzi schemes. They've had over 200 years of experience in Ponzi schemes, and they have a black belt in Ponzi schemes. If they wanted Bitcoin to survive, even though we understand it does nothing, even though we understand that the Michael Saylors, the Mike Novogratz, the Max Kaisers of the world will never step into the ring with me and you because we will literally take them to the wood shredder. That's a fact. Based on facts, based on mathematics. Mathematics is like a pregnant woman. You're either pregnant or you ain't pregnant. You can't be almost pregnant, right? So the bottom line is, let's just say they give the ETFs and all the smoke and mirrors and all the bullshit. Do you think that they're going to allow it to survive? Because Amber seems to think that they're going to allow it to survive, even though she's on the same page as us, saying, yeah, you're right. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't solve a problem or problems. You can't build federated side chains on it. You can't build dApps on it. You can't build smart contracts on it. You can't build other tokens on it. You can't do nothing on it. And it doesn't transact, right?
Yep. Yeah,
So do you
I
think that the government's got a plan, a secret sauce recipe to allow this stupid thing to survive, including Ethereum?
Yeah, I think they still go on in the same way that any other, stock of yesteryear goes on, right? So we still have Sears stock out there. We still have Toys and Toys R Us, right?
Mhm.
Even though it's gone bankrupt, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, those things are out there. And they'd survive because people still want to trade them. They're just going to be a lower value. For XRP to become the number one cryptocurrency, right now, all it needs to do is a 15x, which is in crypto extremely tenable, extremely possible, right?
Mhm.
And once we have a number one cryptocurrency that is integrated into banks, and suddenly people aren't really being given a choice whether or not to use it, but it's just out there and everyone sees it, the investor mindset is going to be, well, now we have a new opportunity to own the next Bitcoin, which is only $100 or only $50 or only $500, right? Bitcoin went to 125,000, 126,000. An XRP at $500 is extremely cheap and extremely appealing as the number one cryptocurrency. And mathematically, that is very likely to happen that XRP will surpass Ethereum and Bitcoin because of the total supply, because it doesn't take as much to move it into that number one post, whereas you have the law of diminishing returns on Bitcoin and Ethereum. They're topping out. Bitcoin right now is really struggling to move from where it's at. And if it broke down right now, it could actually break a 15-year, uh, basically a megaphone. But for those who don't understand trading language, it would be a 15-year trend line that it's breaking. And where the bottom is, who knows? It would probably be the eclectics, the collectors, the people who are really nerdy about Bitcoin and loved it since the beginning, and they're going to collect it in the same way people collect baseball cards now. Sure, it'll exist. It's just not going to be worth very much.
Correct. They say XRP can't hit the high prices because of market cap. It's too big. What is your logic on it? It would have to
Does it?
be too big. The market cap has to be,
Yeah.
hundreds of quadrillions of dollars for XRP to be $200.
So the first thing everyone should understand, and I love when people get this wrong because it's hilarious to me, but market cap means absolutely nothing, not in crypto, not in stock, nowhere. Market cap is literally the last traded price times the total supply. So if I were to pay you $100 for an XRP right now, that is the last traded price, and for a moment that market cap is 100 times the 100 billion XRP out there, so I just gave it a $1 trillion market cap by myself with that one trade. That doesn't mean there's liquidity under XRP buying it to absorb all of that. And the same is true with Bitcoin or Ethereum or anything else. You'll see these posts from Watcher Guru or Market Guru saying that, crypto dropped $1 trillion in value today or was scrubbed off the market. That's not actually what happens. What happens is that 25,000 Bitcoin gets sold and the price to buy it and support it, the liquidity only goes so far, and that calculation comes down by $1 trillion. It doesn't mean $1 trillion in value actually moved. It probably is maybe 2 to 3% of that actually changed hands. So market cap means nothing at all. In XRP, when we say that, oh, it couldn't reach this high market cap, what we're really saying is, can the price of one XRP trade at a higher value to where we would calculate a higher market cap? And the answer is very clearly yes. XRP has a diminishing supply with every transaction. You're burning some amount of XRP. So inevitably, the supply will go lower. You also have Ripple that's holding a significant portion and it's putting that in an escrow and renewing the escrows. And now they just picked up Evernorth. Evernorth is essentially a plan to do what Michael Saylor has been doing with Bitcoin. With Evernorth, they're going to be a publicly traded company. They're going to sell stock and use that stock to purchase XRP. As XRP increases in value, so does the stock value of Evernorth, where they can now sell more stock and purchase more XRP. And that diminishes the total circulating supply amongst retail significantly. So right now we have just over 5 million wallets for all of XRP. And if you average that out to each individual user having maybe 5 wallets, we're looking at between 800,000 to 1 million actual retail holders and users of XRP. And that's a very tiny number when you compare that to the United States, that their Federal Reserve governor is right now saying we're integrating and this is ready to go. And we have a population of 350 million. So can XRP reduce the circulating supply where banks and governments and companies are taking a large enough portion up to that 1% that's going to control the 99% of the supply? Yes, they've always done that throughout history. 1% always controls the large majority of the wealth. So what is remaining and what is that traded for? And if you think we've got just in the US 350 million, but then we talk about pretty much every Western civilization. Let's assume that BRICS goes and does their own thing. Those Western civilizations are 4 billion people. So what are the odds that those 4 billion people are only going to have maybe 10 billion XRP between them? And if those 10 billion XRP between 4 billion people are representative of paying mortgages, buying homes, buying cars, running businesses, very clearly that XRP in each individual's holdings and what that value can be could easily go up to 589. It could easily go over 1,000. It could easily go over 10,000. And speculation will still play its part, but just on utility alone, yes, we can hit 3 digits, 4 digits, and farther.
Absolutely. Now, and I know, and a lot of people out there know as well. We have our audience happens to be a lot smarter than we. I'm dropping everything here. I'm so disorganized. But anyway, our audience happens to know a lot. That's why I'm developing XRP Shaman, who's my good friend. I call him Jeff Bezos because that's exactly what he looks like. He'll be on my show here later on, hopefully today. And we all know that they go out of their way to bite their lip to really minimize and talk as least as they possibly can about the one XRP, including Elon Musk, including yours truly, Eric Trump, who was recently on PBD, Patrick Bet-David, who, by the way, they got into a conversation and they said, "Oh yeah, I'm good friends with Brad Garlinghouse. I go out to dinner with Brad Garlinghouse." And then he was talking about ETH and Bitcoin, he was getting ready to talk and he bit his tongue. You could see it. And I pointed that out and I put it on my Telegram groups, and people was like, yeah, you're right. He was getting ready to talk about XRP and he bit it. And they go out of their way to do this. So, they are heavy on XRP. They're heavy on a lot of things that make sense, right? And
Yeah.
so does Elon Musk, right? If Elon Musk, for example, right now was to call you, and what would you say to him in 30 seconds or in 1 minute and 30 seconds? If you had like 2 minutes with the man himself, because he knows about, he goes way out of, he never ever mentioned the words XRP that I know of. And I'm sure you probably are on the same page, right? If Elon Musk was to call Patrick Riley right now and talk to him for 2 minutes, what would you ask him? What would that conversation look like?
Well, first I'd tell him he's a punk for shadow banning me on X, and assuming that he has to listen to the other minute and 55 seconds, I'd tell him that I could do everything he's trying to do better if he'd just give me a couple hours of his time, because I'd love to show him my generator and I'd love to show him Ascension Point and things that, we could really change humanity with. As far as XRP, I don't think I need to say a thing to him because he definitely already knows. There is zero chance that these billionaires who, make their life on investing and making smart decisions have looked at the cryptocurrency industry and haven't looked just 3 or 4 rows from the top and studied what is 3 or 4 rows from the top. That doesn't happen. There's zero chance that they don't know about XRP. And as you said, they've been extremely tight-lipped on it, and that's because there are NDAs. We know from SEC versus Ripple Labs, which we were a part of and we won. Um, you know, we know for a fact there's at least 1,700 NDAs out there, probably 1,000 plus more since, and the chances of X in the future not using XRP seem extremely slim to me. Apart from the Binance investment in X and purchasing of X or Twitter on behalf of Elon Musk, I don't see any way around it. And the funny part about all this is once Trump started coming into office and started forming this crypto coalition, and he started, pulling in Cynthia Loomis and pulling in Charles Hoskins and obviously Brad Garlinghouse and Stuart Alderati were part of it. You saw a lot of apology tours towards XRP from Charles Hoskins to CZ Binance to all these other entities that had previously spoken negatively about XRP, and as soon as they got in the room with Trump and had a private conversation, I think it became evident to them who the boss really was and where the future was going. And that's why we saw that apology tour come shortly after, it wasn't after the case ended, it was after Trump pulled them in a room.
Absolutely. Look, at the end of the day, do you think by any chance that there's a chance of this, that we know that they're holding XRP secretly? Do you think they'll ever come out and say, when it's all said and done and XRP actually does hit the 2,500 and the 25,000 and the 50,000 and the 100,000, not because we're greedy, because they need that number because they have to move world commerce. And whatever that world commerce number is, it's based on that number. It's got nothing to do. We're just going along for the ride, right? So do you ever think that they'll ever come out and say, congratulations, Patrick. Congratulations, Mel Carmine. Congratulations, Jay Claver. Congratulations, DAI. We owe you congratulations. No matter how much we were tight-lipped about it, you guys could not be shaken. You think they'll ever give us a congratulations?
I don't think they'll say congratulations, but I think 20, 30 years from now in an interview when one of them's an old man, they're going to be like, yeah, of course we did this. And yeah, that's how it's done. You don't tell everyone you're buying it, and they're going to be all nonchalant about it and act like it was an assumed fact that of course they were going to, hoard as much XRP as they could while not telling the public about it. And they're just going to assume that that's fine. And well, it kind of is fine because that's how it's done.
Right. There was a guy, I can't think of the name, and I'm trying to pull it up here as you're speaking. I'm doing multitasking here. An Italian guy, young guy, very, very nice smile. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Besides, I'm really bad with names, but nevertheless, maybe you'll know who it is, or maybe the audience. He was recently on PBD, and he's the guy that years ago, when XRP was like 0.006 of a penny, he understood back then what XRP was. He's an Italian guy. You know who I'm talking about. He was recently on
Uh,
PBD.
Starts with an F. IF. I can think of his initials, but I can't think of his name right now.
See if I can pull it up. He was recently on PBD. Oh my God. It will come to me, I'm sure. Hopefully, it will come to me throughout the show. But anyway, nevertheless. And he said in exactly these words, he put out a tweet, and that tweet still exists out there. He goes, if you think, what did he say? What was the tweet? Let's see if I can remember verbatim. He said, wait, and if you think that a Bitcoin's the one, wait until they find out about XRP.
Yep.
Okay. And they pulled him in. When I say they, I mean the Mike Novogratz and the Michael Saylors and the Max Kaisers. And they said, you're never to talk about that ever again. You got to keep your mouth shut. And he's been talking about Bitcoin like it's the best thing since sliced bread ever since. And he doesn't even, yeah, I'm friends with Brad. He also said, yes, I'm friends with Brad Garlinghouse. But, when he said XRP, he made it look like, it's a conspiracy theory, right? He laughed at it pretty much.
Yeah, and I want to actually share this to you guys, and this is one of my favorite Bitcoin accounts to follow, and he's probably the most competent charter out there. He's called the Rational Root. He's a guy out of the Netherlands, but this is basically the cyclical chart or circular chart that goes by the 4-year cycles, and it shows where we've seen Bitcoin kind of spiral out here, and this line has never crossed below the previous 4-year cycle, right? So this is the law of diminishing returns in action. You're seeing this rapid expansion right away, and then you see a tightening and a tightening and a coiling, and you start to see a really smooth, even though over this last year we had, gone from 40,000 up to 126,000, this was a really smooth transition for Bitcoin. It's
Mm-hmm.
not as rocky as it was 4 years ago. And what that actually indicates is it indicates a Bitcoin top that is coming, in which it will drop somewhere here, can if it hits 200, 300,000 in this bull run, there's every chance it's going to drop below 50,000 in the next bear market. And what that means is that it can actually cross its point or its price from 4 years ago. And it would be at that point spiraling in, and it would be on a decline. So that's kind of a similar graph to what you might see for like the rise and fall of empires or the Roman Empire. And in
Right.
this case, it's Bitcoin. And the law of diminishing returns is always right. You're not going to have the expansion or the multiples of gains in Bitcoin every cycle that you had in the previous cycle. It's going to be significantly less. And we saw it go in 2017 to 20,000. In 2021, it only went to 68,000. That's only a 3x. So right now we're only at a 2x, which is why I've been actually kind of cautious, because I'm worried that we might be at the top of this bull cycle for Bitcoin and we might see it collapse before we see the alt season actually take off. Because right now everything's price has been tied tightly to Bitcoin. Once Bitcoin breaks this trend line, Bitcoin falls and something else climbs to the top. And I think it's pretty obvious what that something else is going to be.
Absolutely. Let me show my screen here. I got two really cool videos queued up. Here we go. All right, make sure my sound is on. This lady here, see if I can blow it up. All right, sound is on. Okay, here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yep, I see a tree.
Oh, no, you don't. Yeah, that's wrong. Okay, let me stop sharing. Let me do it again. And beautiful black lady. You
Yep,
see her? Okay,
I
let me
see her.
Here we go. Let's play this.
So let's get right into it. The president has said during the campaign trail, when he was running for president his second time, he literally said he wants to abolish the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. Many people already hate the IRS, so this was a campaign promise that I think that went well with a lot of people. The plan was to replace the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, with the ERS, the External Revenue Service, a new agency that was going to be created. So let's break this down, how we got here, what's going on, and give you some real numbers on what you can do. As you know, Noelle Randall is a real estate multimillionaire, an entrepreneur, a mentor, a mom of 5, and so much more. But I am actually very educated. I have 2 master's degrees, one from Penn State in economic development, and I have my MBA. So I am always trying to learn and think about things. So let me break this down for you in simple language, because it is not hard to understand. And you don't need any fancy degrees to understand any of this stuff. So currently, at the time of this recording, nearly 1,300 IRS employees are on furlough. But let me tell you another amazing, crazy thing. 1,300 IRS employees were already fired, completely just terminated. So we already started to see this decrease in what's going on in that agency, but most of it has not been around revenue collection and different things like that. So let me break down the numbers for you. America has increased tariff revenue exponentially. That was basically what the ERS was supposed to do. It was supposed to have tariffs, increase tariff revenue, and that revenue would replace income tax and a lot of the taxes that we as taxpayers pay. However, most people immediately broke down the numbers and said, wait a minute, that is not going to be enough revenue. The federal government's budget is estimated to need $7 trillion. We collect about $5 trillion in income taxes through all of the different taxes. I'll break those down in just a second.
Now, we don't know if she's an implant, okay? I watched part of this. It's very interesting. She's right on point. Let me exit this. The External Revenue Service is the tariffs. During William McKinley, this country had more money than they knew what to do with, and that's the exact plan that Trump is running on, besides shrinking the government, besides getting rid of the IRS and get rid of all these agencies that don't even exist, where there's like one guy and there's a bunch of fictitious social security number, and that guy's getting paid $22 million a year, who doesn't even show up to work because there is no place to go because there's not even a fucking office. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? So this all has to go away. It's one big fraud, and it's all been substantiated and funded by we the people, and it's got to come to a stop. You can't continue this level of insanity. What do you think is going to happen going forward with taxation on crypto itself? Do you think we're going to be in the clear, not just on American cryptos, but also worldwide cryptos? I'm invested, for example, in VeChain. I like VeChain. I think it's a project that's going to survive. I think people don't realize that in the last bull run, VeChain, go look it up, $7.02. That's the high. When XRP hit $3.92, VeChain hit $7.02. Okay, so I think that's one of those projects that's going to go. Do you think that there's a possibility that we pay zero income taxes on all cryptos down the road?
I do, and really there's only 2 scenarios, and I was laughing at it when New York City Council tried to initiate a tax on crypto transactions because it was actually kind of hilarious because that just means they don't know how crypto works and they're trying to tax it at the same time. Um, but what it really comes down to is if the government tries to tax cryptocurrency, they are segregating themselves and law-abiding citizens who, I use that term loosely because abiding with taxation is a whole nother thing. Taxation is theft, but those who would obey those taxes would become their own segment of the economy. Well, there would be an entire other, probably majority, who are not going to obey and pay those taxes because the reality is cryptocurrency gives so many ways for that not to be not to be trackable, not to be traceable, and not to be realistic for the government to collect on those. Historically, anytime the government bans something or tries to regulate something that it can't physically regulate, it can't actually control, what do we have? We have prohibition, gave rise to the mob. We have prostitution, gave rise to human trafficking. We have abortion, right? These things that it tries to control that it can't actually stop, it always just gives rise to a black market and to, frankly, a very powerful black market. I think with cryptocurrency, if the government tries to tax transactions or income in cryptocurrency, what they're going to end up doing is they're going to end up making themselves the minority as far as people who are actually willing to comply with that, not just because there's so many, freedom-loving people out there that don't want to pay taxes, but because it's extremely impractical and it doesn't make sense from a cryptocurrency use perspective to pay those taxes on every transaction.
Mhm.
And most people just won't even understand how to do that.
Right, right, absolutely. Where are we on gold and silver? How does gold and silver play into all this, craziness that's going on? Obviously, we hit an all-time high this month on gold. I think we may have hit all-time high also on silver, right?
Silver was
$58.
around 52. I think the all-time high was 58
Okay.
previously. So I'm not sure if it crossed that threshold. I'm sure the markup on the bullion sites was probably past that threshold.
Yeah.
Uh, Gold, we went up to 4,200, and there's still projections saying it'll go towards 5 to 8. I think that's fair. Um, and really, the public awareness of how much we've been fleeced since we came off the gold standard in 1971 is rising. I'm seeing random people on Facebook that I never would have thought would have been political at all, right? Posting things about engineers 100 years ago making the equivalent of $500,000 in gold ounces to today, whereas currently they make $80,000, or the equivalent of about 16 ounces of gold. So the economy and the inflation that our Federal Reserve and the fiat system has initiated is simply unsustainable. And I think that everyone's aware that we're going to have to abandon the dollar at some point. The dollar's got to go. It's not over the fiscal cliff. Right now, it's Wile E. Coyote once he's run off the cliff and he just doesn't fall till he looks down. And we are rapidly becoming more aware that there's no ground beneath our feet when it comes to the dollar. So people will go into gold, they will go into silver, and from a dollar price perspective, that will definitely go up in value because the dollar will definitely go down in value. Now, does that make gold or silver a good investment? That's really up to you. That's up to whether or not you think there's going to be a civil war or strife that, it would be great to have bullion. If you're expecting a war in your area, if there's people that are outside the US, or if you are in the US and you expect that a collapse of the dollar might instigate a war, then having some coinage is a really good idea. You should definitely have some silver ounces and some I personally like the ones that you can actually break up. I think APMEX makes them, and you can break them down into the gram. Um, but on the other hand, if things don't fall into a civil strife and a collapse, having that gold or silver is not very liquid. It's really hard to move it. It's hard to get your money back and sell it quickly. Usually, if you go to a metals purchaser, you're lucky to get about 85% of spot. So that said, XRP is very liquid, and you might, it just depends on your situation. I would recommend having some of all of the above, but I'm obviously myself, I'm leaning about 90% in XRP and about 10% on precious metals.
Well, they screw you when you buy it and they screw you when you sell it. That's just, the
Yep.
little guys always pay the price. Unfortunately, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. And I do sell gold and silver. We got a couple of clients right now. Not a lot, but we're selling steady. Where I get constant calls. Hey, I'm looking to buy, $1,000, $2,000 worth of silver. I'm looking to buy $50,000 worth of gold. And we do supply anywhere in the United States, carminesgold.com. But I got to tell you, they're not necessarily breaking our doors down because the money is dried up for some reason right now. Until Donald Trump allows the cryptocurrency King Kong to come out of the cage, so to speak, which is XRP. I'm going to show a real quick video that will maybe drive it home here in a second. I don't think the economy. They got to do a couple of things to really stimulate the economy. He inherited a mess, and I don't give a shit what anybody says. Things are getting a lot better. You see the gasoline prices coming down. On the I think the entire United States, I think they're down quite significant. I know we're paying under $3, but I belong to BJ's, wholesale club. I'm giving BJ's a freaking plug here. And I get gas for super 93 octane for about $3.10. Sometimes it's $2.90 for high test. That's pretty good. So we know that things are moving in the right direction. Now, do you think that once the price of gas comes down, that the inflation will start to level out some?
I think that depends honestly all on Russia and Ukraine and NATO. If we see NATO and Russia stepping up, which it does appear that they are, preparing for that. France and the UK and Germany all are preparing troops to get involved. Poland's been prepared. And it does seem like they're heading towards a World War III scenario, war in Europe between Russia and NATO. If that happens, gas is going, climb again. We're going to see $5-6 gas almost overnight.
Immediately.
Yeah. So I wouldn't count on gas staying down. It's just definitely hard to predict that. Predictions of World War III have been popular since World War II, so I'm not saying it's guaranteed to happen, but it certainly looks like it's on the horizon.
I think that they're going to bring everybody to a Jesus moment. I think they're going to make everybody believe that there's going to be a World War III scenario that's actually going to manifest. But I think the end game, I'm on board with Nino, my friend, Nino Rodriguez. He's a pisser. And I'm on board with him that the end game is that it won't happen. But they will bring everybody to a Jesus moment. There's no question about that. So let's share the video that we got queued up over here. And tell me if you could see my screen. Yes?
Yes, I see you.
Of 2022. That means I was buying XRP at 36 cents here. I bought some at 44 cents, 44, 36 cents. Look, I spent $500 and bought 1,400 XRP right there. It's 36 cents. You see it? That means I could go and click on one of these two. Look, if I go here and I click on this, it actually breaks it down. Here, I spent $2,000 to buy 5,300 XRP at 37 cents. That means on August the 12th, 2022 at 4:40 p.m., this initial investment is now worth $5,890 in profit, 292% gain. The total is $7,900. That means over here, all of these are in profit for me buying XRP, not at this price where everybody else is hyped up about, buying it when nobody else wanted to buy it, when it was over here at 36 and 42 cents and 49 cents. Y'all didn't want to buy it then, but I was buying it. See? 44, 48, 44. This is the blockchain. It ain't gonna never forget these transactions. So men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. I can calculate for every single one of these. This is me buying 10,000 XRP. I bought $4,800 worth, 10,500. That's now worth 15 grand with a $10,000 profit. This is just getting started. I am not chasing the pump. I've been buying XRP, right? 39 cent XRP here. Look at the date. November 11th, 2022, 4:33 a.m. I am not buying XRP here.
It's look, at the end of the day, it's really like he said something that really stuck out. I don't chase the pump. And I've always given you guys the ex pizzeria impresario formula. It's a very easy one to follow. It goes up, I buy more. If I got extra money, it goes up. If it's on the incline, I'm buying more. It stays level for 6 months and I get extra money, I buy more. It goes down, I get extra money, I buy more. I just keep buying and holding. And if you do follow that simple formula and don't trade, because trade will give you a heart attack, you will not be able to collect. So when you go to Coinbase, it says 70% of you, and that number is very conservative. It's a lot higher than that. It's more like 90% of you are going to get your ass handed to you. Okay. They tell you right there. And you guys, look, there's a few people out there, my wife included, but she gets stressed out. I see her, she gets, she overworks herself for no reason. Just keep buying and holding. Yes, she's made a lot of money with it. She's done things with her family in the Philippines. She built her family an entire house from trading, but that's not the norm. Amber is incredibly, incredibly intelligent. I mean, like she's like your kind of level. You have some kind of like incredible disease that's really a good disease. You had an accident in the army, right? And what happened to you on the other side? You become a clairvoyant or
Acquired,
something.
acquired savant.
There you go, acquired savant. He came out the other side genius. He could build free energy motors, all kinds of shit. He never took a transmission apart in his life or an engine apart in his life. He came out of that situation. Now he could do it, and he never went to school for it. Okay, Amber is like that with cryptos, but she's a genius. She's one in 100,000. She's one in 200,000. But I'm telling you, most of you are going to get wrecked. All right, so don't do it. What did you think of that video?
Yeah, I mean, dollar cost averaging is the sure way to win. And if you think about it from a smaller supply, let's say that you're the only buyer of 100 billion tokens or whatever it is. If you dollar cost averaged on anything with a fixed supply, inevitably you have reduced the circulating supply enough that the remaining value is higher. And that's really, it's one of the principles of supply and demand and scarcity that we work off in Reaper Financial, now Capital Revival, and all our other associated tokens. But if you simply do something consistently, and that consistent action is to purchase and hold, you are going to win long term.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. And I'm going to show the great, I'm a big follower, a big fan of Jay Claver. I love his content. I'm going to share his video here as well. And let me put the volume up.
Prediction for XRP. Well, that's 2030. At that point, 80 to 85% of all real world assets will be tokenized on chain is my conservative estimate. It could be more. And if that's the case, you're looking at easily a $50,000 to $100,000 XRP with derivatives. I know that sounds crazy. You can call me whatever you want. I've watched Bitcoin go from, what it was 15 years ago to what it is today. And I think XRP will move at a much faster pace than that. The 5-year conservative price prediction for XRP.
5 year, that means 2030. He's looking at these big numbers. I don't know that we need to wait that long, because I think looking at all the chess pieces on the board right now and looking at everything, you come to one conclusion. And that conclusion is we are in the final dance. There's no question. I know we've said this before, but I think this is absolutely, without question, the final dance.
Kind of has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, we just broke 38 trillion in national debt, and even though they're dropping rates, inflation is rising right now, which if you look at that from a board of governors of the Federal Reserve perspective, that's about the craziest thing the United States has done since we left the gold standard. And I know that probably sounds really boring to most people that don't understand finance, but I assure you it's not going to be boring. You're going to wake up one day and things have changed.
Yeah, absolutely. So, by the way, I'm not sure if you would be available, but we would love to have you as a special guest speaker. If you, or maybe you can come in through Zoom or what have you, because we have all the trimmings of being able to make that happen at Staying Alive. But we're going to be doing every 4 weeks, every 5 weeks, every 6 weeks at the very most. We're going to be doing we're opening up with my friend Kobus, and he's going to be doing a workshop on literally becoming a ghost, where you put everything under a religious, irrevocable trust, okay, which Amber and I just did that. We're on a verge now. We have everything documented, pictures, all the proof we need. This is all of our assets. Everything, silver, gold, cryptos, assets, everything, including my Staying Alive business. Everything's given to God. You can't tax God, okay? And we're going to go notarize that to make it completely legal and binding. That's the last step. So we're going to have a workshop on how you could become a ghost, literally, legally, 100,000% legal. Because that's what the big boys have been doing forever, right? They put everything in a trust funds, and nobody can touch them. They become untouchable, and they pay how much taxes? Zero.
Nothing.
Zero, right? And so we know that game. We know how to play that game. We've been studying it for a long time. I've met a lot of these cats throughout the years. And then along came Cobus, and Cobus seemed to really know what the hell he was talking about. A lot of the other cats, I wasn't really not, something just didn't jive. But when I talked to this guy, boom, like the light bulbs are going off. I said, this is the guy. This is the guy. So we're going to have a workshop that starts with that, okay, so that we can make everybody out there bulletproof. Wouldn't you like Mel Carmine to make you bulletproof, where if you make $100 million, you get to keep $100 million, or if you make $1 billion, you get to keep all of it completely legal and nobody can ever come take your assets? Ever? Just like the big boys? That's what's getting ready to happen at Staying Alive. Okay. And followed by that, which is where you can come in, whether you want to come in virtually or if you want to come in on stage, if you want to, fly in, whatever. And maybe we'll put you up at night so you can sleep in the system and charge you up this way. We'll send you back at 90 millivolts. Okay. Charge up all the cellular structure of your body. We're going to talk about the new financial system, XRP, XLM, XDC. And I believe XRP, XLM, XDC stronghold a lot of these tokens that are sort of like affiliated with the ISO tokens. They're all going to thrive because I don't think XRP could do it all. I don't think XRP has enough tokens. Agreed?
There's definitely room for other things, and obviously I've built out my ecosystem with RPR, ASC, ARC, Pillars, Box, and now we've acquired STX or Stratix, Strategy XRP, and there's ways to create additional utilities and products out of other tokens that will attach themselves to XRP that are going to blow people's minds. And I know most people don't understand what I'm doing now, but it's going to get a lot more aggressive as we go. And right now we're already making payments towards holders' debts just for holding RPR. We send payments to their truck, their house, their student loans, whatever. With Ascension, we're paying out physical gold, physical silver just for holding a token. With ARC, we've raised over $100,000 for charities. With Pillars, we're collateralizing multiple other tokens on the XRP ledger. And with Box, we're going to give you ownership of your data and pay you to use social media in a way that Elon wishes he'd thought of. And so, it's really, there's so much room for innovation right now that I feel like we're at the beginning of the internet again, where most people don't understand how to make a website. And they're like, oh, well, if you make a .com, that's a thing, right? And that's what they're doing with their tokens. They're just making tokens that don't have any application. Just because most of the .com bubble was worthless back in the day doesn't mean the internet was worthless.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. But
there's
there's a couple of gems out there that are associated with the ISO tokens. And we're going to actually, as a matter of fact, I put a video yesterday inside my Telegram group, a guy from Great Britain, and he's doing a part 2 and a part 3 of that video. People were still calling me this morning. They were so impressed with this guy. These are all new guys that only have like 16,000, 14,000. I got a guy that's got less than 2,500 followers. Brilliant content. This guy's going to blow up into the millions as long as he could stay away from the political stuff. Because I like to surf the gray line and like to hold my finger up a little bit sometimes. You know what I mean?
guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, but there's some tokens out there that we're going to really tell you guys to jump in at the right time that are going to be absolutely, and they're less than pennies. It's like rolling back the clock 10 years and buying XRP at 0.002 of a fucking penny. Had I known what I know today, brother.
Yeah,
Hindsight is 2020, right? As they say.
absolutely. And, of course, just to shout out to all the other XRP Ledger projects out there, the fact that they're on the XRP Ledger, they're the way that everything on ETH and all these other cryptocurrencies blew up after Bitcoin. That's what's going to happen to XRP Ledger, because the XRP Ledger tokens are almost unheard of right now. They're living in this little bubble. As soon as that bubble pops and the whole world knows that XRP has tokens and XRP is number one, all those ETH tokens, they're gonna start looking at how they migrate to XRP. But the ones that are already there on XRP, the OGs, they're gonna do well.
No question about it. No question. What do you think of the fact that it's slowed down significantly now on the XRP army, the original army, the one that came, with the guys we associate with when we go to XRP, Las Vegas, etc. They've slowed down significantly on talking about the central bank digital currency.
Yeah, fatigue and a lack of energy in the community is usually a sign of something's about to happen, the calm before the storm. And I definitely think that's where we're at. Now, as far as a CBDC and for the United States, it's kind of inevitable if we're being realistic. It will need to happen in order for the United States to be on par business wise with the rest of the world. It's a matter of what does it look like when we get there and
Yeah.
what are the restrictions on that CBDC? Is it something that we have to worry about it invading our freedom? So the people who are, anti CBDC, I don't think they're being very realistic, but
Digital ID?
yeah, yeah. So I think there's room for a CBDC if there are the right restrictions on the government
No
in the
digital ID. You can't
exactly.
shut my money down. If I want to
Well,
buy steak with my popcorn money, or I want to buy chicken with my fish money, or whatever, I could do that. Total
exactly.
right.
And so that was actually when I was running for president, that was my proposal for the 28th Amendment was the freedom of finance or the right to transact in any currency that you presume is appropriate and also going after things like predatory lending and accredited investor status and things like that. So I think if we got the right laws in place prior, there a CBDC won't be the nightmare people thinks that it could be. If we don't have those laws, yes, it will be that nightmare.
What happens? Somebody else comes in after Trump, and Eric Trump does not get in, and they start to, finagle the bagel, as I like to say.
And,
Who?
and that's kind of that's the natural order of the United States because we have this two-party system is that the pendulum swings, right? So right now we have Trump and I'll be honest, I don't think 2028 looks good right now for the Republicans, primarily because they've been supporting Israel while about 30% of Republicans don't. So I think that if that pendulum swings, it's going to swing to Gavin Newsom, God help us.
God help us.
Um, so that reality is going to be that, well, the Republicans have supported crypto and they've said this, that, and the other. They're going to say no CBDC. And the Democrats are going to say, well, a CBDC would give us this and help us do this. And there are going to be some benefits, and they're going to use that as, the other side of the pendulum. There's always going to be that swing, and there's always going to be the other side saying, well, but we don't have health care because of this, or we don't have whatever. And they're going to use it to eventually usher that in, and it'll swing back to Republican, and they'll go, oh, well, we already have it. Now what can we do with it? And it just keeps going, and that's the cycle we live in.
Yeah, but see, thank God we have a Second Amendment, and we're never going to give away our Second Amendment under any circumstance. We're open carry here now. By the way, people are thanking me for. I walk into establishments, and people say thank you for open carrying, and so hopefully that catches on in Florida.
I'm glad y'all finally caught up to Texas.
Yes, yes. And so, but I'm one of the first few. I didn't even finish. I didn't even allow Wayne Ivey, our sheriff, to utter the words, and I was already packing. I was like, showing it, etc. And some people say that's dangerous. Well, you'd have to be crazy to attack somebody, a guy with a gun that's got, because you don't know how much experience I have. You don't know how much experience you have. There's a lot of bad guys out there, but why would somebody want to pick a fight with somebody just because they're showing a gun? That doesn't make any sense either to me. So,
Yeah,
but
they
there's all
don't.
these scenarios out there. It's craziness. But anyway, needless to say, I think it keeps everybody cool and calm. You know what I mean? But anyway, needless to say, let's talk about World Liberty Finance. My wife She doesn't buy me chocolates anymore for Valentine's Day and birthdays. She buys me she buys me tokens. So she bought a nice bag. She was able to make me an accredited investor. We were able to get it for like less than pennies, and now it's up 15.59% as of right now. It's at 15 cents. I believe all day long that this is going to be one of the ones that's going to be in the thousands of dollars.
I could definitely see it. I will say that optically it's been very bad for the Trump family releasing Trump coin and Melania coin and WLFI and just before Trump's latest tariff announcement where we saw the largest liquidation in history. um there was that $1 billion short on Bitcoin, which the Trump administration has the most billionaires in history, but more than likely who would actually have that insider information, and that has actually been tracked to WLFI. Not that they're going to get in trouble. I'm sure they're going to get away with it. But it does cause optical issues for
Well, Donald Trump lost $5 billion becoming president in 2016, and we know what happened in 2020 without mentioning. They finagled the bagel with the election, and we know what the outcome was. It wasn't what we the people wanted, obviously. And enough said on that. The people out there are able to read between the lines. But I could tell you, he lost $5 billion all day long, maybe a little more than 5 billion. And yes, is he going to make 50 billion with cryptocurrency?
probably.
Maybe 100 billion, maybe 200 billion. And you know what? The guy's been through the ringer. They dragged his entire family through the mud. Literally, they I don't know how many indictments. We lost track of how many indictments poor Eric had. Okay, this
Yeah, and I mean that's totally fair. I just would say it's not a necessarily a good thing for the crypto economy and the crypto community that we now have presidents and presidents' sons playing in the market who have a great effect on the market. And it does make things very volatile, at least right now. And, you know, love it.
until all of the money has to move, right? When all of the money moves, it's a different game.
Yep.
Do you see another major crash before we go, or was the last one that when we hit $1.10 and I bought at $2.82? Okay, hindsight's 2020, right?
I think that we will have another major crash before the end of the year, and that's primarily just based on charts. Typically, the bull cycle will end at the end of a 12-month period or just before tax season, and that's because all the companies and whatnot are selling off.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is if there is a crash or a black swan event, then most of them won't be able to sell off at profit, and most of them have to hold to next year, and that extends this bull market into 2026 where it no longer has to face that wall of January 1st. So given that the market is highly manipulated and this bull market seems to be moving much slower than historical ones, I think there's a very good chance we see another black swan event, only so that it perpetuates and accelerates the bull market for 2026.
What would be the reason for another crash so that the big boys like BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, BNY Mellon, they all get in on the cheap, and they're going to lock the doors for the little guys? You won't be able to buy at those prices, so
It,
don't even think about it.
exactly. Essentially, what they're doing is they're locking the doors for people to exit just before the end of the year without causing significant damage to all of those little companies out there that are holding it in all of those home offices. But what happens is once it does rebound the next year, then all of those stocks, things like MicroStrategy and now Evernorth and all these others that started January 1st at a low, they go into the next year with record profits. And that's something that, the manipulation can do them favors both directions by dropping it or by rising it. Um, and I just think that based off the chart, it makes sense for there to be another drop. And they can do that through tariff announcements with China. They can do that through invading Venezuela. They can do that through, a faux pas with Russia and NATO. There's a lot of ways that they can just instantly tank the market. And I do see that happening at least once more before the end of the year.
So what would be your advice to the people who are just getting in the game? My advice, and I'm sure your advice and my advice will probably correlate, would be not to panic, because in a week or two, things go back to normal, right?
Yeah, don't panic. And I would say, as Mel was saying, most traders, most people doing leverage, you're going to lose everything. The large majority of them lose everything. They get liquidated, they're gone. So buy, hold, don't sell just because of a drop, dollar cost average. And over time, if you're buying something in the hopes that you're going to sell it next month, you have no business buying it. Frankly,
Right.
That's not the way to invest.
I totally agree. Last but not least, did you get a chance to watch my incredible documentary called Dear Mr. President?
I have not had a chance to watch it yet.
You have not? Okay. Maybe we'll give your audience a glimpse, because I know even though you don't have a channel, there's a lot of people that follow you. It's a well done piece. A lot of people have complimented me, because I'm a meticulous kind of guy. I strive for perfection. Is it perfect? Probably not. Unless I could be sitting next to my editing staff, and unfortunately they're in Nigeria, right next to them, and really hound them and do it the way I wanted it to. But it's reached, I think, as close to perfection, based on that there is an ocean dividing us. But I'll give you a little piece here. Let's see if I can get to a piece that's worthwhile.
Have you been to Nigeria yet?
I have not. I heard they're prosecuting a lot of Christians there.
Yeah.
You know who yours truly is, right? James O'Keefe. We found this has got to do with censorship. It has to do with censorship. And I know you're pissed off at Elon Musk, and a lot of people are pissed off at the tech giants. But I'll give you a little piece here. We actually translated it into Spanish, Italian, French, German, Chinese, both Mandarin and Cantonese. And it's in 7 different languages. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, let me hit the play button here.
And land in the hands of the man who knows how to fight and how to win.
So I can follow my conscience, and then I'll die. But I can lie, and I can live. And people will do anything to survive. They'll survive at any price. The question is this: what is your price? Because if your price is not your life, then you are for sale.
Dear Mr. President didn't start as a documentary. It started as a letter to President Trump. A letter I planned to record as an audio, hoping that one or both versions would land on his desk. That's it. Then something happened. On a Monday live show with our co-host, the idea caught fire. Everyone had input. Everyone felt it. It wasn't just a letter anymore. It was a mission. And that mission quickly grew into a documentary. Now, let me be blunt. I've never done a documentary in my life. This was my first. Worst case scenario, I humiliate myself on a grand scale. I didn't care, because failure was never part of the option. I don't even think in those terms. I'm not wired that way. I charge forward as if I already won. So I started to reach out to the biggest podcasters I know, and I know quite a few. I would love to tell you that they all stepped up. They didn't. Most of them sat on the sidelines. Maybe they didn't want to take a chance on Mel Carmine, the new guy in the documentary arena. Or maybe, just maybe, there was a little bit of jealousy involved. Charisma is a dangerous thing in insecure rooms. But I hold no grudges. I fight even for the ones that ghosted me. Big podcasters, small podcasters, it doesn't matter. I'm fighting for all of them, because this isn't about Mel Carmine. This is about free speech. This is about the war on free speech. That's why the film is free. We're not charging a dime. We want it to grow legs so that no one can accuse us of a cash grab. I've heard it over and over again throughout this journey. We need an internet bill of rights. And every time I heard it, something inside of me screamed and said, why? Why do we need that? We already have one. It's called the First Amendment of the Constitution,
of the United States of America written in ink, not suggestions. Why would we rewrite our rights to placate tech tyrants who think they're above the law? Why would we kneel before Silicon Valley, especially now with Donald J. Trump in a position to use one pen stroke and it's over? A man who knows damn well how to lead. What we need isn't new parchment. We need real enforcement. We need an addendum to the First Amendment for digital platforms, a powerful executive order with 1,000% flexibility to go after any and all guilty parties, plain and simple. If a platform infringes on free speech, that's strike one. By strike two, they face obliterating fines. And if they still don't comply, let them be replaced. The Trumps know plenty of programmers. We can take over their platforms, level the field, remove the censorship chokehold, and restore full spectrum free speech. No more speed bumps, no more blacklists, no more algorithmic gags. Let the truth speak. Because when it does, mainstream media won't stand a chance. They'll be like a rat in a cage fight with King Kong. Now let's talk about what's lurking in the basement. We know there's potential collusion, yes. Possibly from a very small portion of the military-industrial complex. Puppet masters behind mannequins like Zuckerberg, Mohan, and Mosseri. If that turns out to be true, and we discover factions of our U.S. intelligence hands twisted these CEOs into silencing Americans, let me be clear, that is treason. You know what the penalty is. You don't need me to spell it out. But know this, if that's what's going on, we will not whisper. We will yell, loud, clear, 117 times a day. And the mannequins, they'll be right there beside you when justice comes. Facing the wall, let me remind the spoiled tech elite of something else. America is not just a market, it's a privilege. Everybody wants in, because we're still the richest, most powerful nation on earth.
Is that pretty fun? Is that freaking powerful or what?
It's great.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece. It really is a masterpiece. Unfortunately, we got overshadowed by Charlie Kirk's death. Whether it's a psyop, we don't know. There's a lot of things that just don't add up. And thanks to Candace Owens for shedding light on a lot of stuff that makes sense.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw Ian Carroll's recent expose about 2 days ago, but that one is definitely worth watching.
Okay. Definitely send it to me. Absolutely. Send it to Amber as well, and she'll send it to me. But anyway, needless to say, brother, it's been a pleasure having you. This video, this documentary, which is really a work of art, 6 months in the making, got overshadowed. We did a 24-hour, what do you call it, marathon live. It just would automatically reloop and replay itself on an untold number of channels. There's 45 podcasters in the movie. And a lot of them had playing it on their channels, etc. So, and now we've given anybody who wants to just go to dearmrpresident.net the ability to just copy it. If you want the Chinese version for your Chinese channel, or the Russian version, or the Italian or Spanish, you got it all. Just take it, put it on your, even if you're not a podcaster, you got people following you on Facebook or whatever, all these other channels, go run with it. So we don't even know. We're estimating 1 million views so far, maybe 2 million views conservatively, because it's on so many different channels. It's really hard to gauge. But I will tell you the next one is how the first one is going to get the notoriety. People say, well, you mean there was a part one to this? Let me go see part one, because part two is going to piss off 8 billion people on planet Earth beyond recognition.
Good.
Yeah. Beyond recognition. And I won't let the cat out of the bag, but it'll be Dear Mr. President, Part 2, and then a subtitle. The subtitle is a dead giveaway. That's why we keep that very close to our chest. So thank you for coming, brother. It was an absolute pleasure. Guys, don't forget QFS1776.com/shop. New merch is coming, and it's going to be literally off the Richter scale. You're going to want these shirts. I promise they're going to be collector's items. Carmine'sGold.com. If you need gold or silver, I can supply anywhere in the United States. Also, if you need to buy a large amount of crypto, not just XRP, other ones as well, but 10,000 is the minimum, and there is no maximum. 786-704-8817, 786-704-8817. That number works for both gold, silver, XRP, cryptocurrency. Send me a text message, full information, as much information as you can, not too long-winded, and I will contact you within 24, 48 hours. That's how busy we are. And if you come to Cape Canaveral, staying alive with 2 E's.com, come and charge the body. The body will thank you. Thank you, brother.
All right. Thanks, Mo.